All right. Hello, Junior Achievement. It's Kristen, the Education and Events Manager, and today we are lucky enough to have Dana Morrison with Allstate. Thanks for being here, Dana.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
All right. Well, I just want you to jump in if you want and tell us all about yourself. You know, so much of the career we choose and where our future goes starts from the beginning. So tell me about yourself all the way from childhood, if you grew up here, if you grew up somewhere else, what your parents did maybe, and how you chose to work for Allstate or own your own business, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's not something I necessarily can say I thought I'd end up doing, but it was probably one of the better decisions. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Lake Tahoe. I come from a family of poverty, actually. So I was on welfare all the way through high school. I moved, my parents were divorced when I was young. So I moved from Tahoe to move with my dad into Reno when I was 13. And same situation, welfare in that situation. And moved out when I was 18 and kind of ended up in a career of sales. I started off in IT. So I ended up after high school, I went to Truckee Meadows for a year and a half doing IT. And a buddy of mine had gotten into sales in the car business, which is a unique industry, probably not my favorite industry of careers I've had. But it was a good place to learn a little bit about sales and how sales works. And I like to talk to people. I like to be up on my feet doing things and talking. And so I got into that, and I was kind of shocked at how naturally it kind of came. It was fun to talk to people. It was a unique experience every day. Every day was different. That kind of started me on the path of sales. It was a good income. For me at that time, I didn't have a full college background at that point. And so the income was, considering I hadn't had a degree at that point, was it was an eye opener at the different opportunities that were really out there. If you really went looking for them. And so after college, I stayed in sales the whole time going through college, and ended up just staying in the sales career. I moved from car sales to furniture sales. All those are retail type hours. So I was working anywhere, from 50 to 80 hours a week, depending on where I was working at the time, working holidays and things like that, which ended up getting an opportunity to be the finance and insurance director for a car dealership here locally. And I did that for about 3 years, and those were long hours. It was a great income, but it was really, really long hours. You kind of learn that money isn't everything as life goes on. And work-life balance became a big piece of that. I was married. I had a young baby at home, and I wasn't spending any time with them. It was great that the bank account was growing, but you can only do so much. Time is worth a lot. And so a friend of mine, who was my insurance agent at the time, had been in the car industry prior, and she said, "Hey, how's that going for you? Enjoying it?" And this is while I was doing all my paperwork for getting insurance for a house we were buying. And I said, it's a lot of hours. It's a great life, but a lot of hours. She said, "You should explore insurance." Right. And it was an opportunity I never thought I would, ever have thought about normally. But I was invited in for her. She had me come talk to her sales manager for the region. And, 10 years ago, I took that leap, and I left a good income, a stable income to pursue kind of the goal of working for myself and owning my own business. And I had a lot of motivation. Like I said, newly married, little baby at home. I had no choice but to succeed. So though it was hard, I just kept working harder and harder and put a lot of effort. That first year, I probably worked the same amount of hours, 60 to 80 hours a week. But it kind of, I was able to scale back over the years to where sometimes there's weeks where I only work 20 hours a week now, just depending on what I've got going on. My daughter's older now. I never miss any events, any music things, any sports things. I never had to miss a single one with this career. The income ended up being exponentially better than what I was doing prior. And so, it's kind of, though I wouldn't have said I necessarily find myself looking for this career, I ended up in a career that was very rewarding for me personally. And it's very rewarding for what we do for our customers. I think a lot of people, especially in the sales industry, you get just used to selling a product, right? And trying to do something, to better your situation and help some, and you're helping people buy what they need, but it's more about just trying to sell something. Whereas in this industry, it's really about helping people. A lot of people think insurance is more of a commodity, right? So it's like going to the store and buying a box of cereal to them sometimes. There's so many insurance companies, but I've seen massive $1 million claims. I've seen lawsuits, and it's amazing how misunderstood this industry is, and how many people take for granted the time they should take and talk with their insurance professional about the ins and outs of their situation. You get people that work 50, 60 years of their life, build this huge retirement, and end up in a car accident, in a giant lawsuit, and then they lose everything. And now, they're working part-time jobs at Walmart as a greeter for the rest of their life, or whatever that situation may be, as opposed to doing it as a choice, right? They're having to do it as a requirement because, nobody took the time to help them through that. So it's been extremely rewarding for both me and really for what we can do for our customers.
Awesome. That was a lot to take in. So when you talk about work-life balance, just give us like a day-to-day for you, because I know it went from a ton of hours where you weren't getting a lot of time with your family to now where you can kind of pick and choose and do family stuff. So just on a typical day from wake up to going to bed, what's it like for you?
So I'm 10 years in now. So I have, and it's funny is you'll talk to different people. I know many great agents, and we all kind of have a different work-life balance, what we think that is. Some of us, work 5 days a week. Some of us work 3 days a week. And you're going to talk to different people that do different things. For me, work-life balance at this point is, I get up, I get my daughter ready for school, have breakfast with my family, have a cup of coffee, kind of take my time in the morning. I probably get going. I'm probably up at 5:30. I read a book, read some of the news, look at the market. But I get up, do the family thing, and by 9 o'clock, I'm usually working on Allstate stuff and working through that. 3 days a week, I stop at 11. I go to the gym. I go to CrossFit, so I do that a couple days a week, and then have lunch with my wife, and then come back and hop back on the computer, spend a couple hours doing that, and then go pick up my daughter from school. And then depending on where we're at and what we've got going on, sometimes that's my day, right? I mean, which, there's maybe 4 or 5 hours of actual work in it. But then there's other days where we have goals, and, I have a team that, we support each other. And, if somebody's out on vacation or we're trying to hit goals and requirements, that I'm on at 7 a.m., 6 a.m. working, sending them emails, doing stuff. And my wife handles the drop off pickup, and I get off the computer at 6 or 7 at night. It just depends on the given day. But ultimately, the beauty of this is it's become something that I can control completely, which is hard to find.
Yeah. I also have owned a couple small businesses, and I know everyone says, oh, you make your own schedule, and you think, I do, kind of.
Yeah, I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a staff, right? How many
Yep.
are on your staff?
I have 5. I have a team of 5 people.
That's a lot of people depending on you, I would think, if we
Yeah.
were going to list that as one of the stressors. So when you were in high school, what did you think you were going to be?
It's great. At one point I wanted to be a doctor. I thought about being an attorney. Then I got into IT. IT when I was going to high school was really just becoming a big thing. Yeah. Is at an accelerated pace, I should say. It's been a big thing for, decades at this point, but it was becoming very accelerated. So I thought I would do that. I liked it. It was a big puzzle to me. So I thought that's what I would do. But, I do it now on the side, like just for my own personal stuff, or I'm the IT guy for my company, and for other Allstate agents, at times. And so I've realized I'm glad I didn't end up in that industry necessarily. They're just both completely different, right? They both have their pros and cons. But I'm definitely happy with where I've ended up.
So you mentioned a friend got you into sales, which is kind of the path you took. Would that be who you considered a mentor that got you into this, or do you have other mentors or other ways that you think that have helped you in your success?
Oh, I've had many, many people along the way that have helped me in my success. My success is all built on the backbone of numerous other people throughout my life who have taught me different things, from the person who pushed me to investigate the opportunity, to the people who, help you through your highs and lows. Business can be really great, but business can be really bad. And, it just depends on a lot of different factors in the world. Family, all that. I would say really you've got to have a core circle of people who all share the same vision. For me, there's a couple other Allstate agents where, you go look, there's 10,000 agents in the United States as far as just Allstate agents. And so the one big key thing for me has been trying to find people that we share the big vision, right? Because then you support each other through it. Whereas I think it's easy to find, everybody wants to complain. It's easy to complain. It's a little bit harder to say, okay, yeah, this is a tough situation. How are we going to rise above it? And if you can find a core group of people that think that way, you can usually help each other rise to different levels that you never thought you could. And so I would say those are the people that I lean on the most.
Amazing. That also answered kind of one of my next questions. Right now, obviously, we're in the middle of a crisis with the coronavirus, and you mentioned growing up in poverty, and that can happen. There are plenty of people who think that that'll never happen to them, but it can happen no matter what. So, especially with insurance and just being an adult, do you have any advice for our students on how they could maybe work to prevent something like that or prepare for it?
Yeah, I think be careful of what mindset you set yourself. I'm a big person on your mindset is everything. If you think it's too hard or if you think you can't, it's easy to build that world of disappointment. But I can tell you from my own experience, from other people that I know, their experience, part of my childhood, which was helpful for me, is growing up in poverty. I did have a family member who was probably the extreme opposite of poverty, right? They were in a great position, and I got to spend a couple of weeks every year with them. And you'd go spend 2 weeks a year living a dream lifestyle, and then you spend the other 50 weeks a year wishing it was the other 2 weeks. And so, but the one thing I learned is that person and that family member worked harder than anybody I've ever seen, right, to get where they're. They had to make sacrifices along the way from a family standpoint, right, whether they were traveling for work or whatnot. But you really got to see what work ethic was, and really that's what it boils down to. It's not necessarily where you came from. You got to find. For me, it was taking where I came from and turning it from a weakness to a strength, right? I work hard because I don't want to be in that position again. But I also don't complain because I know what worse is. So when things get bad, you got to put it in perspective. Some people didn't wake up today, right? So you got to win the minute you woke up. That's one win right off the bat. So I think that's the big thing, is the perspective piece. Your situation is only bad as you let it be.
That was good. That got me a little emotional. Well, we just have a couple more minutes, and I feel like you've hit on all of our financial and professional questions. Do you have any just general advice? Our students are mostly 5th grade to 12th grade.
Okay.
General life advice for us?
General life advice. That's a good question. Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I said. Just don't take every day for granted. Remember, there's people that are always in a worse situation, always. And so you always have the opportunity to make every day better. There's 1,440 minutes in a day, and that's how I break out my entire day. So I went through my schedule. If a day goes by where I didn't accomplish something I wanted, or there was a disappointment, I go back and say, what did I do with my 1,440 minutes? Right? Did I make the use of all of them? Because I can tell you, when I get honest with myself and I go back and I look and I didn't accomplish something or I missed a goal, I go back and be like, I could have done a lot more with those minutes, right? The minutes that I sat dinking on social media, or, you absolutely have control of every aspect of where you go and what you do. I think the biggest mistake we can do as people in general is blame other people for anything, right? Everything that happens to us is based on a decision we make. And I think when you're young, I know you said, from 5th to 12th grade, I think at that point in your life, it isn't necessarily just the decisions you make, but realize you are making decisions as you're growing up, and you're making decisions that you have control. In 5th grade, 6th grade, doesn't matter. You have control of how you respond to them and how you let them shape what you think life can be. And I think that's the key, is to remember that you ultimately will control your outcome. Your situation today doesn't mean that's where your situation is tomorrow.
Good advice. Good life advice. Well, thanks for being here, Dana, and I hope you
Absolutely.
have a great
Thanks for
day.
taking the time. You too. Thank you again.